All right, so today we're going to be talking about foiling and factoring. And we've recently talked about foiling, and you've been introduced to the topic of factoring with GCFs. But today we're going to look at it a little bit differently. So let's just jump in and let's go ahead and FOIL this expression right here. So I'm just going to color code some things that'll hopefully help us visualize some stuff. Okay, so I've got my 2x plus 5 times 3x minus 1. What I'm going to do first to FOIL is the first. And remember, FOILing is just really distribution, or I like to say super distribution or hyperdistribution. So I'm going to take 2x times 3x. When I do 2x times 3x, those are the first terms. So I've got 2x times 3x. Next, I'm going to do 2x times negative 1, which would be the outer. And 2x times negative 1 is just going to be minus 2x. Then I'm going to do the second term multiplied by both the terms in the second parentheses. So 5 times 3x is going to get me, well, 5 times 3 is 15, and the x is along for the ride. And the last part I'm going to do is 5 times negative 1, or minus 5. And I'm not done here. I should write it really out as 2 times 3 is 6, and x times x is x squared. So right here, what I've got is 6x squared. I combine the two middle terms plus 13x, and I have minus 5. Notice that the middle term didn't really come specifically from factors, but a combination of my two parentheses. But my first term came from the numbers in the first slots, or my first term has factors of the numbers that go in the first slots. And my last term has numbers that are factors that go in the last slot. We're going to kind of explore that idea today with factoring and foiling. So first, let's talk about factoring is the reverse or opposite of FOIL. So when I say that, I mean they kind of undo each other. Like if when I FOIL this out up here, I got something in standard form. This right up here is technically factored form. If I were to factor backwards, I'm going to get something in factored form, or I'm unfoiling. So just to talk about it with our last problem, I have 6x squared plus 13x minus 5. And if I'm going from standard to factored form, or I'm factoring, I'm going to start with something that looks like this, and I'm going to end with, today I'll have two parentheses. The past 2 days you talked about GCFs and talked about maybe I could have some that look like this. Let me erase that and move it, because I'm going to do some work right there. So maybe I have some that could look like 2x minus x minus 2. We're not really going to focus on ones that look like that today, but rather two parentheses. So let's look at this up here. And we talked about above that I had factors of 6x squared in these first two slots. So when I'm factoring or going from this form to this form, I need to think about what are factors of 6x squared. And in these last two slots, in my parentheses, I had factors of negative 5x, or this constant number, or your last number if you have it in x squared, x, and number form. So with that in mind, I need to think through what are some factors of 6x squared. So I've got 6x squared, and we talked about them up above. So maybe I have 2x and 3x, but I could also have 6x and x, and the 2 and the 3 come from 6, and the x come from x squared, and same over here, the x and the x come from x squared, and the 6 and the, this is technically a 1x, come from 6. Okay, well we know that we've got our factors of 2x and 3x right here in these first two spots. Next, I'm thinking through maybe what are some factors of 5x. I'm sorry, not 5x, just 5, and it's actually negative 5. So factors of negative 5, meaning one of my numbers is negative. If we look up top, we know that it's 5 and negative 1. But I could have also had negative 5 and positive 1. But we do already know our factors, so I'm going to plug those factors in. And then to check this, I would FOIL. So I would say, ooh, 2x times 3x is going to give me 6x. And 2x times negative 1 would give me minus 2x. And 5 times 3x is going to give me 15x. And 5 times negative 1 is going to give me minus 5. So with that in mind, you see that I do end up getting plus 13x in the middle if I were to combine these two middle terms and check myself through foiling. So I'm going to show you another problem in a second, and we'll kind of go through the process of factoring again to give you a better idea of it. So our next problem is going to be x squared plus 11x plus 30. So again, I've got my two parentheses. In these first slots, I'm going to have factors of that first term or my x squared term. And in these second slots, I'm going to have factors of my constant term, or in this case, 30. So factors of x squared. Well, since there's not a number in front, all I have is x and x. So I only have one option, which makes my job a little easier for here. So I have x and x. But with 30 has a few different options. So with 30, I could maybe have 3 and 10. Or maybe I've got 2 and 15. Or maybe I have 5 and 6. Or maybe I've got 30 and 1. And really you're thinking through maybe what are some options that I could choose from here. So I'm just going to try out all of these factors until I get one that gives me 11x in the middle. So let's say I start with plus 3 and plus 10 here. So I should get my x squared and 30. I'm just checking for the 11x. So I've got x times x. That's going to give me x squared. And then I'm going to do the outer, or I've already done, times this term. So I'll do the first term times the second term. So plus 10x, 3 times x plus 3x, 3 times 10 plus 30. So I've got x squared plus 13x plus 30. So sadly, that doesn't give me my factors. So these ones right here are not your factors. So I'm going to try something different. Again, I'm going to have x and x in those first slots, but maybe this time I try plus 2, and plus 15. Again, just factors of 30. So I've got 2 FOIL again, so I've got x squared plus 15x plus 2x plus 30. And again, I end up with a situation where I don't have 11x in the middle. Remember, I just FOILed to get these numbers right here. So I'm going to try another pair. So let's say maybe I have, again, x plus 5, and I'll have parentheses x in that first spot again, plus 6. So guys, this is really a trial and error process where you're picking factors and then FOILing to check yourself. So I've got x times x squared, x times 6 plus 6x, 5 times x plus 5x, and 5 times 6, 30. And I think I finally found the factors that work or that are the true factors of this equation, because this time I got 11x, okay? So it's really a trial and error process, and we're gonna try one more problem in this video, and then I'll have a second video for you that gives you a little bit of a complicated answer. So let's look at right here, my third example. We're gonna go with x squared minus 5x minus 24. So I'm going to factor this. So again, I'm gonna set up the parentheses. And again, in this first slot, I'm gonna have factors of my x squared term, and in my second slot, in both parentheses, I'll have factors of negative 24. Okay, so again, x squared, not too complicated. I'll have x and x. I go to look at the 24, there's maybe some more options for me to choose from. So I've got maybe I have 2 and 12. Maybe I have 4 and 6. But wait a minute, negative 24. So one of my numbers has to be negative. And here's how I'm going to kind of pick which one's maybe negative. So this last number is negative, meaning that one of my numbers in here is going to be negative. Because the middle term is negative, I'm going to say the bigger number is negative. Okay, so I have 2 and negative 12. I've got 4 and negative 6. I'm going to keep listing some factors. Maybe I have 3 and negative 8. Oh, I could also have, this is kind of your last resort, is to have 1 and the number itself. So 1 and negative 24. So I've got a few options. I'm going to try them out like I did in the last problem. So I've got x and x. I've got maybe plus 2 and minus 12. And again, I'm going to FOIL to check myself or maybe find the correct factors. So x times x is going to give me x squared. Okay, what I'm expecting, great. Then I have minus 12x. Then I move on to the 2, so I've got 2 times x, so plus 2x. 2 times negative 12, so I have minus 24 for my last spot, which is what I was expecting. So I've got x squared minus 10x minus 24. Not what I'm looking for. So I'm going to move on to another factor pair. If I were to switch their spots, it wouldn't really change anything here because I just have x and x, but we'll talk about that in the next video. I could switch the signs, but what that would do here is give me positive 10 in the middle. And you can try that out and see that I'm right on that. So let's move on to another factor pair. So maybe x squared minus 5x minus 24 factors into x plus 4 and x minus 6. Again, we're going to FOIL to check. So I've got x squared times, I've got x times x. So that's going to give me x squared. And then I've got x times negative 6, which gives me negative 6x. I move on to the 4. I've got 4 times x, so plus 4x. And then I've got 4 times negative 6, so minus 24. So that would be my orange number. Okay, so I go x squared minus 2x minus 24. Again, doesn't work out. So I'm going to try another pair. It's really a trial and error process. There are some tricks that you've maybe picked up on as we're doing this, but it's a trial and error. So I'm going to say that maybe x plus 3 and x minus 8 are the factors of x squared minus 5x minus 24. So I'm going to FOIL to check. So I've got x times x, which is x squared, x minus 8 times minus 8, which is give me negative 8x, 3 times x, which will give me plus 3x, and 3 times negative 8, which will give me minus 24. So again, I'm adding my middle terms. I've got x squared minus 5x minus 24. Oh, hey, that worked out. These would be my factors, okay?